Welcome to my second Swift tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to implement functions in Swift. So just create a project called functions, always command line tool. Let's dive right into our main. So what functions do is they allow you to create sections of code and organize your project. So each function should perform one specific task. So you could have a function that calculates some value and a function that manipulates that value. And then what you can do is that if you need those values again, you can just call the function and make it elaborate the data and give you the results. So it's really cool in the sense that it improves reusability of code. So I'm just going to show you some numerical manipulations using functions. So to create a function, you just use the func keyword. You then give it a name. We can just call it f. It'll accept an x, which will be a double. This is how you create put parameters. You put a name, you separate it by a colon, and you specify the data type. However, to get results from functions, we need to give it a return type. So in this case, it's going to be a double because we're getting back what f of x is for a value of x. So I'm just going to say that f of x is x squared plus 2. So what you can do is create a variable, call it result, cast it to a double, and set it equal to 0. And then return result. Now, let's say our function is x squared plus 2. We then assign result to power function. The power function lets you enter a base, which in case is our x, and set it, elevate that to the power of 2. We then add 2 and return the result. So when we want to get the result of this function, we can just call the function in the command line tool, this is not the same when you create iPhone apps, but when you define a function, you can only call it after it's been defined. So now we have this f of 4, but we really don't have its result yet. To get it, we should assign f of 4, a variable to f of 4. So I'll just call it result for input is f of 4, and then that should be assigned to double, because that is what our function returns. So now, let's see if this works. We can print the result. So let's think about this. If we enter 4, we square it, which is 16, and we add 2, and the result should be 16 plus 2, which is 18. And that is exactly what we get. However, functions are not really they're not really just limited to that. You can change a lot of things in functions. For example, you don't need a return type. If you don't need to return anything and you just have to do like some internal calculations or something like that, you don't have to include a return. If you want to return something, but you don't want to use the return keyword, you can use the what is called the inout. So it's basically like pointers in C and C++ where you can return the result without using the return keyword, and you can have multiple returns. So what you do to do that is just use the inout keyword in front of the data type name, and then create a result variable. And let's cast it to a double because that is what we're going to get back. Now, without assigning result, if we try to assign result to f of 4, that doesn't work because f doesn't return anything. So what we do is just call f of result. But now we just, yeah, you need an ampersand when you do that. If you have it in out, you need it in the function call. So now it should modify x to be the result, but before we do that, we have to take out this result, and instead of assigning result to the power of x squared plus 2, we just assign x to the power of x squared plus 2, so that x will be modified and pass in the original result. So to show you that this works, I'm going to print result before and after the function call and see if it changes. And it does indeed change, and it also gives us the correct value because result is initially 0. So if we square that, we get 0. If we add 2, we get 2. To show you that this works, I'll just assign it to the previous value of 4, and we should get 18 again. And there we go. First it is 4 because I assigned it to 4. I call the function, and it turns into 18. Another thing about functions you may have noticed is that by default, the parameters cannot be modified. So let's do something else, but with strings, for example. Let's create a function, and let's call it say hi. So we'll pass in a string called name, and what we can do is print hi. And that should print my name. But let's say we might want to manipulate that result, that string, inside the function itself. We wouldn't be able to do that because by default, each variable is a constant. So name is equal to something. And then it tells me cannot assign let value name because name comes in as a let constant. Let's say though, what we could do to fix this is say var new name is equal to name, and new name is equal to whatever new value. But that adds too much code, because we have 2 lines, 2 extra lines for a function that should be only 1 line. So that is kind of annoying. So what we can do is specify that name is a variable instead of a let. So we just type the var keyword in front of name. And let's say to edit it, we want last name. So I could pass my name and my last name. So what I would do now is stick those together. And then finally print. And there it is. So this is just a basic introduction to function. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to introduce Boolean values.